What's the big deal?
Where can you get pizza, bread twists, specialty chicken, and more for just $5.99 each?
Is it at Domino's?
He hands off hand-tossed pizza and a marble cookie brownie. He's going!
There's a lot of variety on the radio and at Domino's too, where you can
Mix and match 2 or more. $5.99 each at Domino's.
2-item minimum. Pan pizza, bone-in wings, and bread bowls will be extra. Ask for this limited time offer. Prices, participation, delivery area, and charges may vary.
Good morning, and welcome back to another edition of DFS Today. This is your Wednesday, January 12th edition. I am your host, Santino Cacone, filling in for Mike today. We switched days on here, and we have a nice 9-game slate for everyone out there. It's going to be a fun one. Should be fairly quick. We have 2 teams on the back end of a back-to-back. That would be the Washington Wizards, the Chicago Bulls. 1 team on the front end, that is the Brooklyn Nets. Everybody else is open for business. Without further ado, let's get right into it. First game on the docket, we have the Orlando Magic taking on the Washington Wizards. At 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have a 217.5 game total, and the Wizards are 7.5 point home favorites. On the injury report, we have Mo Bamba and Wendell Carter Jr. as questionable. Michael Carter-Williams, Markelle Fultz, Jonathan Isaac, Etuan Moore, Jalen Suggs all out with injuries, not in protocols. And then for the Wizards, we still don't have an injury report for them. I'm doing this in the morning. But Bradley Beal entered protocols last night before the game, so he is likely out for this one. Thomas Bryant should be making his return. Tremont Waters is out. And that was all we had on the injury report. But on the back end of a back-to-back, be aware Spencer Dinwiddie has been resting on a lot of these, so that is a possibility here. Everyone else looks like they should be good to go. With that in mind, let's go on over to Orlando. We're seeing Wendell Carter Jr. and Mo Bamba both listed as questionable for this one. Carter's probably he's leaning towards a game time decision. Probably will give it a go. Bamba, his toe, that's a new one. He's been playing great without Wendell Carter Jr., but we might not have either of them. Obviously, those are 2 huge guys that we need to know about. If one misses, the other one is a fantastic play. Mo Bamba at only 5'8" is a great value. Wendell Carter Jr. was doing work without Bamba before he missed some time. So if one of those guys misses and the other guy plays, really like them. If they both happen to miss, Robin Lopez is coming back from protocols, 4K. You should draw the start in a ton of minutes. Really like him there. Okeke should draw a start and log a lot of minutes, most likely there. Wagner gets a lot of extra shots and whatnot at 5'7". Terrence Ross, Gary Harris both look good. Probably won't have too much exposure to Cole Anthony in this one at his price tag, though I think without those 2 guys, he's going to be the clear number 1 option. But there's a lot to like in the value categories for this team if both those 2 big men miss. If both of them wind up playing, it does change things up. Then obviously no Robin Lopez, no Okeke. Wagner, little bit. But I do like Bamba out of him and Carter. I think the price tag is just very solid there. And then Gary Harris takes a little bit of a hit, but I don't mind looking at him at 5K. I would have a little less exposure to Cole Anthony. I mentioned if both of them are out, that's just a lot of extra shot attempts. Maybe less assists, but a lot of extra shot attempts there, and I like him there. Okeke and Robin Lopez aren't as much of a factor on offense as Carter Jr. and Bamba. All right, jumping on over to the other side of the ball, we have no Beal. It's a back end of a back-to-back, so Spencer Dinwiddie's availability is in question here. Leading up to this game, we'll see what happens that. But if Dinwiddie does miss, I really like Advia at only 4.2. He only played 18 minutes in the last one without Beal, but we've seen him initiate and run the offense a lot with Beal out of the lineup previously, and with Dinwiddie out of the lineup as well. They're going to need someone else to handle the ball. That will fall to him. Neto, Aaron Holiday will probably split the point guard minutes. I like Neto a little bit more, but Advia does take on a bigger role, and I like him, the 1,000 price tag difference of those two guys. And with Thomas Bryant coming back, Daniel Gafford, Montrezl Harrell, both these guys, I don't know what they're going to do. Maybe they play Harrell and Bryant together for a few minutes. I can't imagine Bryant playing more than 15 minutes max. We'll see if that holds up, but I can't see him playing a lot of minutes his first game back from an ACL tear, especially with two other centers that need minutes as well. So I just think him coming back, even if it's 10, 15 minutes, is going to put a dent in Harrell's $4,700 price tag, unless he gets power forward minutes, and Gafford's $6,200 price tag. So I don't really want either of them. Speaking of power forwards, we still have Kuzma. Rui's back now. Rui hasn't really played much, only played a couple games. 14 and 15 minutes. His conditioning, as that comes up, he'll probably get to 20 or so. Kuzma might play some small forward, but Kuzma's been awesome. And at 8K, you can still look at him. With no Bradley Beal, he's been fantastic. Just look at his game log and the points that he's scoring. I don't think the rebounds are going to be 22 like he had another one, but he could certainly put up a double-double again. And if he does, with the 20 points, 20-10 double-double, give him a couple assists and a defensive stat here and there. And, he's hitting value. So I really like him here. Advia, if Dinwiddie misses, and Raul Neto would be the three guys that I'm looking at the most. All right, jumping on over to the next game of the night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Boston Celtics taking on the Indiana Pacers. On the spread, we have a 210.5 game total, which is easily the lowest of. Oh no, I'm sorry. The next game, one game after this at 7:30 is the lowest, but this is easily the second lowest game of the night by far. And we have the Celtics as 3.5 point road favorites. On the injury report, we have Marcus Smart is doubtful. Peyton Pritchard is questionable in health and safety protocols. The Pacers have Bitadze, Brogdon, LeVert, Duarte, all questionable. McConnell, Warren, both out. Bitadze and LeVert are questionable for conditioning. Duarte is questionable for personal reasons. All right. We'll jump on and start with Boston. A lot to like in the Dennis Schroeder category here at 4.8. With Pritchard questionable, Marcus Smart doubtful. A lot of extra minutes for him. Josh Richardson, even Romeo Langford here to take a shot on either of those guys. With Schroeder only 4.8 and him having the highest upside of that crew that I mentioned, I do like that. He's only scored 11 points, has 8 assists in his last 2 games, but we know he can drop 20 if given the time, and he should see, instead of the 21 minutes he's seen exactly in the last 2 games, he should see closer to 30, maybe even surpass that in this matchup if Pritchard and Marcus Smart are both out. Especially if just one of them is out, I still like him. I prefer Schroeder over Pritchard. Josh Richardson, again, should see a good amount of minutes in this one. He's been really inconsistent. He played 38 minutes in the last game, only had 14 fantasy points. But the minutes should be there. The matchup is pretty solid. At 42, you can take a shot. Again, I prefer Schroeder over him, but he's an option. And I mentioned Romeo Langford, 3,100. You can take a stab at him as a punt play option if both those two guards miss. 3,100 is just a Hail Mary type play, but he's been seeing some solid minutes, and he'll get extra minutes in the rotation here if you want to take a chance on someone super cheap. As for the two big guys in the front court guys, I'm not too interested in Robert Williams or Al Horford in this one. I do prefer Williams over the two. The price tag is hugely different, but the matchup, Robert Williams had a really good matchup in the first one against these guys. So I do prefer Rob Williams over here. And with Brown and Tatum, both of these guys are playing awesome. I think you can go with either on this. I'll go with Tatum for the upside, even though Brown's had the last 2-game advantage there. I think it switches back here. And 9,500 is a solid price tag for a matchup against the Pacers that just give up a ton of points. So I think there's a couple guys that you can look at here depending on Smart and Pritchard's availability. But I'm looking Tatum, Schroeder, Josh Richardson the most with a Langford punt play. All right, jumping on to the other side of the ball. Yeah, we got to see who's in, who's out. LeVert would change a lot of things if he plays. Right now, we're seeing Sykes, Washington Jr., Stevenson get a ton of run. And those guys are priced from the bottom up of how I just mentioned them. But they're getting a ton of run at the guard positions with all these guys out. Torrey Craig's getting a lot of run as well. He should still probably get a decent amount of run. He's been playing better than the other Holiday brother, Justin. And back-to-back games over 24 points at only 4,300. I don't mind him here. Assuming that LeVert and Duarte don't make it back for this game, that's pretty solid. In terms of the front court, Sabonis had a monster game, and he should continue to be a focal point of the offense as long as the other guys are missing. He's going to rack up a bunch of assists, grab some rebounds. I do still like him here at 10K. He has 4 out of the last 5 games at least 58 fantasy points. He's been the center of attention here, no pun intended, on this team, and he's been playing fantastic. So I will keep him in my lineup. And then the guards, I like the 3 guards that I mentioned: Sykes, Washington, Stevenson. They're dependent on LeVert and everybody else's status, Duarte and Brogdon. If any of those guys play, I probably will have no shares of either of those 3 guards and the LeVert, Brogdon, Duarte. They've missed a little bit of time. I don't know how healthy they are. I don't know what their conditioning is going to be when they come back, so I'm probably going to leave them off. And then it does hit Craig too, but Craig would be safer than Sykes, Washington, Stevenson. So I didn't need to see the injury report. If all those guards still miss, I like Sykes out of those 3 the best. All right, jumping on over to the last game at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Charlotte Hornets taking on the Philadelphia 76ers. We have on the spread, it's just not popping up. Oh, it was the top one. 226.5 game total, and the Sixers are 5.5 point home favorites. On the injury report, we have Seth Curry is questionable. Tobias Harris is probable. Shake Milton, Ben Simmons, Jaden Springer are all out for this one. And the Charlotte Hornets just have Kelly Oubre and Vernon Carey as out. We'll start with Charlotte. Oubre out opens up some things for Hayward, Bridges, Rozier, Washington, McDaniels, Martin. The whole forward/guard forward type of player here just opens up some minutes on how they play it. And it opens up some minutes for Plumlee to get some extra at center. With that said, don't love everybody's price tag in this one. Terry Rozier has been awesome the last couple of weeks. At 73, he's been beating that price tag 3 of the last 4 games. He has at least 43 fantasy points in those games. He didn't play against Philly yet. I don't mind looking him here. I do like Bridges a little bit more for the $200. I would rather take the upside there with Bridges. Not huge on anyone. PJ Washington, 4,900 could be solid with Oubre out still. But I really don't love the matchup for anyone. So probably not going to have too much exposure on this side of the ball, despite the price tag. The high game total of this one. On the other side, Joel Embiid, 11-2. He's going to be in a smash spot against Plumlee. He's played 2 games against Charlotte, and he's averaging 62.4 fantasy points. He's averaging 37.5 points, 11.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists a game. And that is without any blocks. He's averaging 62 fantasy points against these guys. So we know he blocks some shots. He's averaging 1.5 shots or block shots a game. So you just give him 1, and the upside's evident here at 11-2. I know he's super pricey, but he is going to be in a fantastic pace-up matchup. And then there might not be Tobias Harris. There might not be Steph Curry. So it's going to fall a lot on Embiid. Really like him in this matchup. Tyrese Maxey, I mentioned the 2 guys that are questionable, the number 2 and second and third/4th options on the team. If one of those guys miss or both, Maxey becomes fantastic value at 5.4. He's only $200 more than Furkan Korkmaz, which looks a little crazy on the surface, but Maxey looks healthy. There's no Shake Milton backing him up. 5,400 is fantastic. And then we're going all the way down to Thibault Green. Both of them might start, depending on who's in, who's out. And so could Gorgeous Niang could start if Tobias Harris is out. So I'm looking at those three guys, depending on Harris and Curry's availability. If one of them miss, if it's Curry, I like Thibault. If it's Harris, Niang should start, and I like him as well. And at 3,300 and 4,100 for the two guys I mentioned, a very solid price tag. So definitely keep an eye on the injury report and take advantage of this very paced up matchup. Right, jumping on over to the next game at 7:30 Eastern Standard Time. This is the lowest spread of the night. Nope, never mind. I was jumping up. They have the Heat in Atlanta listed first. So this one is a 223.5 game total. The Hawks are 3.5 point home favorites. We have on the injury report, Clint Capella is doubtful. Sharif Cooper, DeAndre Hunter, Cam Reddish are all questionable. Solomon Hill is out. For the Heat, Bam, Butler, Marcus Garrett, Markieff Morris, Okpala, Oladipo, all out. And Dwayne Dedmon is questionable to make his return. And I buried the lead. And Hunter, I said questionable. He is questionable to make his return from a long injury as well. We'll start with the Heat. Yep, and we have everybody pretty much out again. Bam and Butler, the two big guys, out. So we're going to look down. Dedmon might come back in this one, but I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Yurtseven has been playing fantastic in his place. He's still 6,900. Even if Dedmon comes back, I still think you can play Yurtseven. They might even play both of them together. But the guy has over 42 points in 3 of the last 4 games. Hitting value there. And then he has over 35, just mostly, if you just look at that. He's just rebounding the ball insanely. Does 8 assists in the last game. That's a fluke. He could still get you 3-4 assists, a couple blocks, but double-digit points possibly, and definitely double-digit rebounds. The guy's been awesome. 6,900, really like that. Kyle Lowry's going to be in a solid spot here, 7,600. I don't think I'll go too high there now that not everybody, but a lot of the guards are coming back, like Vincent, Struss. We have Robinson back, who's probably coming off the bench. I do like Struss at 5K. I think that's a solid price tag. He's hit or miss when he shoots, but he could get double-digit shot attempts in this particular game, and I like taking a chance on that. We have Caleb Martin. Without Butler there, he's been playing a ton of minutes, 30-plus in the last couple. I know they were missing people, but 30-plus minutes at 44 can take a shot at him as well. And that's pretty much what I'm looking at. I think Yurtseven, Struss, and Martin are some solid values here still. And on the other side of the ball, there's just a lot of questionables. Clint Capella is doubtful, so I don't think he's going to play. And you can instantly look at Okongwu at 3,900 anytime Capella misses. He played 38 minutes in the last one. Didn't have a great game. He only had 23 points, but he still had 9 points, 10 rebounds. He had 5 fouls in 38 minutes, but I expect more. He had no steals, no blocks. This guy gets a lot of steals and blocks. I expect a big bounce back from him in this one. He's averaging nearly 2 stocks a game in only 23 minutes in his 7 games on the year since he came back from early season or injury, missing most of the season. So with him at 3,900, really like him. He's probably my favorite value play of the night. Outside of that, we don't know about Reddish. We don't know about DeAndre Hunter. Both of them are questionable to return. And that's big news. DeAndre Hunter, if he plays at the bare minimum 3K, even if he's not going to get 30 minutes, if he gets 25, you take a shot at him. Bare minimum. He hasn't been great this year. He hasn't been what he was the first 2 years, or at least last year when he was healthy. But he's still pretty solid, especially if Cam Reddish misses. That's extra minutes to go around. Just a bare minimum value guy. So I like that. Trae Young been playing fantastic. The matchup isn't going to be daunting without 2 of the best defenders on the team. I think you can look that way, but there are some other options that I'm not going to have too much exposure on them. My favorite play on the team is Okongwu, and then depending on Reddish and Hunter's availability, that would make me look more towards Herter, Bogdo, possibly Gallo, the other forwards that are available. If they're all playing, if Reddish and Hunter are playing, it's going to leave me away from all of those guard forward guys, then see what happens in the rotation there while they're all healthy. All right, jumping on over to the next game of the night. And now this is the lowest spread of the night. I got ahead of myself. All right, we have the Dallas Mavericks taking on the New York Knicks. We have a low 206.5 game total, and the Mavs are 2-point road favorites. On the injury report, we have Willie Cauley-Stein, Porzingis are out. Porzingis out in health and safety protocols. And on the Knicks, Arcidia Kono, Rose, both out. And then Taj Gibson, Nerlens Noel, and Kemba Walker are all questionable. Nerlens Noel is still trying to get his conditioning back. He returned. He got off the COVID list a little while ago, but still trying to get his conditioning back. With that said, looks like Luka is off the injury report. He came back a couple nights ago, put up 64 DK points in a triple-double, a big 22-14-14 triple-double, and now it looks like he's good to go. He did this before, came back, and then missed a couple games, so it's good to see him not even listed as probable or questionable on this. At 10-9, anytime Luka's under 11K, he's definitely in consideration, especially since he didn't look too rusty. He only hit 8 of 13 shots, or 23 shots, in his return, but he still put up massive counting stats in there and didn't even have a stock and still had 64 points. So he's definitely in play here under 11K. Outside of that, Kleber's been playing solid at 4,900 without Porzingis. I think you can look his way. I don't think the upside is crazy, but you can look his way. But I really don't want to look too much at anyone else. Hardaway Jr. maybe for a revenge game narrative, and at 5,200, it's not crazy to do that. But I really don't like too much on the Dallas side. Gonna jump on over to the other side of the ball. RJ Barrett has been playing fantastic. 6,600. He's been one of the most consistent guys on the team last couple weeks. 6,600 is not a crazy price tag. I think he can still beat that. He's beat it 3 of the last 4 games, and he has at least 34 fantasy points in those 3, and 2 of them over 43 fantasy points. So I think the upside is there to take shot at Barrett. Randall is now 8.5, but he hasn't looked like the Julius Randle that we saw last year, the All-Star Julius Randle. He's looking more like the Pelicans version, or not so much the Lakers version of it, but he's not been playing great. He only had 2 points in the last game on 1 of 7 shooting when they got blown, when they blew out the Spurs. But I think Barrett is the one guy I'm looking at right now. And then if Kemba Walker plays, gonna muddy up the waters for Burks and Fournier and Quickly and all those guys over there. But RJ Barrett is the one guy I'm really keying in on. Nerlens Noel and Taj Gibson both don't play. Then you can take a look at, because they're both questionable, Mitch Robinson should have a more secure role at 4,900. If Noel does come back, I'm going to leave it alone. But if he doesn't, Mitch Robinson becomes safer. And then if Taj Gibson also misses as well, Mitch Robinson should, assuming he doesn't get into foul trouble, play a ton of minutes. So he would be the other guy I'm looking at over here. Right, before we jump on to the next game, I want everybody to know that we have a brand new daily fantasy partner at Sports Ethos, Thrive Fantasy. Prop up with Thrive Fantasy on their mobile app or at thrivefantasy.com. Use code ETHOS when you sign up to get a 100% deposit match bonus on your first deposit up to $100, plus either 2 or 4 free game tickets to play. Pick player props on the biggest names playing every night. Score points when your props hit, and the players with the most points win a share of the nightly prize money. Again, that is code ETHOS when you sign up, and you get a 100% deposit match bonus on your first deposit up to $100, plus either 2 or 4 free game tickets to play. Do check them out, guys. All right, next game on the docket, we have the Houston Rockets taking on the San Antonio Spurs, another battle of Texas. We have a 223.5 game total, and the Spurs are 5.5-point home favorites. The Rockets just have Sengun, questionable to return from that ankle sprain, and Armani Brooks, questionable in health and safety protocols. Spurs have Collins, Keldon Johnson, Trey Jones, Doug McDermott, Devin Vassell, Derek White, all out in health and safety protocols outside of Collins, so that could change. They all went. This would be the first possible day that these guys could return, so this could totally change later on, and this is going to be a hard game to talk about because most of the Spurs could be back. And then Jack Landale is probable. All right, we'll start with the Rockets. Sengun could possibly be back. I don't want to have a look at him anyway. At 4,900 in his first game back, he's going to be very limited. With no one really else on the injury report, we're looking at Kevin Porter Jr., who could possibly get suspended for this game. I was assessed a flagrant 2 in the fourth quarter with excessive contact, and then he was ejected from Monday's game. So there's a possibility that he could be suspended. That would change some things on this side of the ball. You would look at Deshaun Tate getting a lot more opportunity. Jalen Green looking really, really good. I already like him at 4,700, but he'd look even better. Eric Gordon would get some more minutes. Garrison Matthews as well. Josh Christopher, possibly Armani Brooks if he starts, but in that order. So we're going to have to keep an eye on Kevin Porter Jr. But Jalen Green, 4,700 I mentioned. I like him either way. I just think that's a cheap price tag. He's really been underwhelming in 4 of the last 5 games. He hasn't hit 20 fantasy points, but he has the upside when his shot is falling, especially if Kevin Porter Jr. misses, extra shot attempts, extra initiation of the offense. And this guy's very streaky, so it's something that I'm keeping an eye on. And you can get very hot against the Spurs, especially with a lot of people possibly missing this matchup in health and safety protocols again. Christian Wood at 6,900, just a very, very cheap price tag for him. I don't like to go up against Pirtle too much, but I don't mind taking a shot at Wood here in that price tag. Eric Gordon at 4,500 is another guy that is solid, as well as Garrison Matthews. Both these guys can hit shots. The matchup is going to favor them. It's going to be a fast-paced, high-scoring affair, possibly, and I really like those two. I would take the chance on Eric Gordon for $600 more if you have it, just because his upside is higher. All right, now we're going to jump on over to the Spurs. And again, this is the day that a lot of these guys can return if they tested negative. So it's possible that a lot of these, or not a lot, a couple of these guys can be back, or all of them. We don't fully know, and that includes Trey Jones, Doug McDermott, Vassell, Johnson, White. At least 2 starters here. Vassell, McDermott. Actually, at least 3 starters, because one of those usually start, and Trey Jones. So this could change a lot by the time the game starts. But as of right now, they're all listed as out. That's what I'm going to go off of. Murray at 9,700 should feast in this matchup. He played 40 minutes 2 games ago, and then played on the back-to-back on the 10th, and he played 30 minutes. But in this matchup, with a lot of these guys especially out, he should feast. So I really like Murray here in that price tag. Pirtle at 6,300 is a solid price tag as well. He's been playing pretty well. He has beaten that or touched that price tag in multiple games here. You look at the last 6 games here, at least 30 fantasy points. So he's right on value with upside to hit 40 and even more. In a matchup like this, I think you can take a chance on him. If everybody's still out, as I'm going off of right now, Lonnie Walker at 4,600 should easily beat that price tag. He's done it 3 straight games. The first one was only 19 minutes. The last 2, with everybody out, he had almost 40 points and then 25. And the last one only on 5 of 19 shooting. That type of volume is insane. He only hit 5 shots, but he still beat the value. If he's going to take that many shots without everybody, love him here. Bates Diop, 3,900 is another guy to look at if everybody's out. But again, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Walker, with everybody out, is one of my favorite value plays. All right, jumping on over to the late games. We have one at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We have the Cleveland Cavaliers taking on the Utah Jazz. On the injury report, or on the spread, we have a 221.5 game total, and the Jazz are 6.5 point home favorites. We have Colin Sexton, Ricky Rubio, and Isaac Okoro as out. Azubuike, Jared Butler, Malik Fitz, Rudy Gay, Rudy Gobert, Elijah Hughes, all out, and Joe Ingles is questionable to return to competition for conditioning. We'll start with the Cavs, who have a lot of their backcourt out. They're starting shooting guard, then starting point guard, then starting shooting guard, all out here. So it's still a tough matchup. Without Rudy Gobert, Jazz aren't as dominant defensively, but it's still a tough matchup. Now we're seeing Garland, who was near 10K not too long ago. At the end of December, near Christmas, he was 9.7, Now he's back to 8-1 after a couple down games. He's back all the way down to 8-1. That's more in the price range where I want to attack him. In this particular matchup, probably won't have go attack him there. I would look into the front court without Gobert. And again, Gobert could return. You never know who's coming back when health and safety protocols. But without Gobert, Jared Allen, I prefer over Garland in this one. Just a lot of room to operate. Hassan Whiteside is just lackadaisical a lot. He's a solid rim protector at times, but he's more of a fantasy guy. In real life, he's just lackadaisical. Jared Allen could take big time advantage of this, assuming he just gets the 30 plus minutes that he's accustomed to seeing. At 7,900, he's my favorite play on the team. Stevens been getting a solid chunk of minutes at the shooting guard position. At 3,500, can take a stab at him. Last 2 games, he has at least 19 fantasy points, and 3 of the last 5 as well, 2 times over 20. So you can take a shot at him at only 3.5. So don't mind that there. With Cedi Osman back, he's another guy you can take a shot at 4,500, a little bit more expensive. He played 31 minutes in the last game on the back end of a back-to-back. That was his 3rd game back from conditioning. So the minutes are there. Don't mind taking a shot at him either, but Jared Allen is my favorite play on this side of the ball. On the other side of the ball, just a similar thing. You're playing against a very, very tough defense. Without Gobert, I mentioned Whiteside, 6,200. You can still look at him. He is a fantasy guy. He's not a real life, too good of a real life guy, but he does put up numbers. In the last game, he put up 21 points, 14 rebounds, 5 stocks. Probably won't do that again against this front court, but I don't think you need him to put up 51 to bring back value here. He can still bring back value, and he's going to get as many minutes as he can handle that doesn't involve foul trouble. Those first 2 games in January, he had 5 fouls each, played a combined 55 minutes. Didn't have crazy rebounds, blocks, or points, but this is not a great matchup, I should say, but this is a very solid opportunity for him. That's likely where I'm looking. If Joe Ingles is back, and I still don't really want him, but it would cut into Clarkson's playmaking a little bit on the second unit. But yeah, I'm mainly looking at Whiteside here. Both center options are my favorite here. All right, jumping on over to the Brooklyn Nets. I mentioned that they are the only team on the front end of a back-to-back, and they're facing the Chicago Bulls, battle of the top 2 seeds out east. And this one starts at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and the Bulls are on the back end of a back-to-back. We have a 227 game total. The Chicago Bulls are 1.5? Yes, 1.5 point home favorites. On the injury report for the Nets, Aldridge out, Harris out, Kyrie, Harden, Claxton, all questionable. The Bulls still don't have an injury report as well, but Caruso, Javonte Green, Tyler Cook, Patrick Williams, likely out for this one. We'll see if anything else changes on the back end of a back-to-back. But for now, we'll start with the Brooklyn Nets. Harden, Kyrie, Irving. Obviously, we need to know the status of these guys before we can play some. I would do it in tournaments, cash games a little bit. I want to be a little bit more cautious. Tournaments, you can take a chance on a couple of these guys, see if they play. If not, there are some alternatives still in the other 10 o'clock games, so we can look at that. But if none of these guys play, yeah, you can go straight to Durant at 11K. Going to get a ton of usage, should hit 50 points with ease, and the upside to do more. If a couple of them play, or if all of them play, probably not going to get a ton of exposure to any. With all 3 of these guys, with Harden, Kyrie, Durant, all in play here, going to change things up a lot for what we've been accustomed to. Kyrie's only played 2 games on the season, and we'll have to see how they start gelling again. I know, and even last year, all these guys were missing some time, whether it was just resting, injuries, what have you, but they've only played together 1 time this year, so I won't want to play any of them, even in a very exciting matchup for the top 2 teams out in the East right now. Nick Claxton's availability is going to be big in the front court, with Aldridge already ruled out. If Claxton can play, then he should get as many minutes as he can handle. He did leave Monday's game with left hamstring tightness. Hamstrings are never fun. And he only played 13 minutes in that game. So if he is out, and that changes everything in the front court. Blake Griffin, Millsap, Johnson, Duke, a lot of these guys, Sharp, they're all going to get some run here. We'll see if they put KD at the 4 for the most part and then just play with someone else. But a lot of shaking and turning here. If Claxton does play and he's ready to go, I really like him at 5K. If not, then it will depend on Harden and Irving. It's very hard to talk about this team with 3 starters questionable right now. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But if all of those guys miss, we have some value here in that front court especially, and even in the back court. Patty Mills, Cam Thomas, 4.8 and 4K are going to look real solid. And then we're looking at Edwards and all the front court options. Blake Griffin should start and play a ton of minutes at 3,200. Would love him here. But again, we got to make sure that we know the availability of the first guys, of a lot of the starters that are questionable right now. Jumping on over to the other side of the ball, we finally see a changing of the guard with Vooch as the high mark on the team right now at 9-1. Levine dropped. He was very heavily priced. He was hitting over 10K at the beginning of the month, at the beginning of the year. And he never really he wasn't really putting up the numbers to do 10K. He did have a stretch where he was going off with 30-point games, and then dropped down a little bit. But last 4 games, he hasn't hit 30 points, actual points, and he's just only 3 of those 4 games he had over 30 fantasy points. So I'm not sure why it took so long. But Vooch is going to be in a fantastic matchup. Levine could be in a fantastic matchup if we're playing up backups in the front court. It's a lot to siphon through. I really like DeRozan here as well at 8-4. Lonzo 6-8. Depends on who's available for the Nets. They're going to play hard regardless, and I don't think it's going to be a blowout, especially on the back end of a back-to-back if, say, those 3 guys miss in Claxton, Harden, and Irving. But just opens up a lot of opportunity for him. Kobe White at 5-5, I think I like regardless, without Alex Caruso. But that and Vooch going to be in a fantastic matchup regardless. But Levine and DeRozan and Ball, they're going to depend on who's in and who's out. I would lean towards Ball at 6-8 out of those 3 guys, but we'll just see. We'll see who's available or not. But I think you can target Kobe White, target Vooch regardless, and then Lonzo Ball. If you want to take an upside chance before we hear any news, I am all for that. If we hear that it's going to be like Patty Mills and Thomas starting in the back order, what have you, then yeah, Lonzo Ball to me is going to be a really solid play. Jumping on over to the last game of the night, we have the Los Angeles Lakers taking on the Sacramento Kings. This is a 230.5 game total, which is the highest of the night, and we have the Lakers as 2.5-point road favorites. On the injury report, Anthony Davis, Jay Huff, Mason Jones, Kendrick Nunn all out. LeBron probable. Rashawn Holmes, Damian Jones, Lewis King, Jameis Ramsey, Robert Woodard all out. Tristan Thompson as questionable. This could change. Or Rashawn Holmes could be back for this one. We're not 100% sure. They have him listed as out, G League assignment. Not sure that is accurate. He should be conditioning on this one because he's cleared protocols before. But wait, nope, just a new update. He just got ruled out again. Okay, he cleared protocols, but he's out. Oh, he will be on a G League assignment to get his conditioning back. Right, that is news. All right, we'll jump on over to the Lakers side of the ball. It's just going to be a great matchup for both of these teams. Both these teams bleed points. LeBron James is averaging 52 points against the Kings. He's averaging 30, 8 and 6 with 1 stock. Probably won't have as much exposure to him. I think the matchup is fantastic. But I was looking at Embiid earlier around the same price tag, a little less. Durant at 11K with possibly no Kyrie and no Irving. I would prefer those 2 guys there. But if you went KD and then everybody played, you can easily try and switch to LeBron if you and switch it over if you have a couple extra $100. But outside of that, I think Malik Monk's going to be in a real solid spot. I know he's already 6,200, but we know that shooting guards can score against this team. 6,200, I think there's some upside there for him to hit 40. Taylor Norton-Tucker, if you want a cheaper option at 4,700, don't mind him there. And a very pump play of Austin Reeves at 3,200 is where I'd go. But this team is mainly at the top. On the other side of the ball, with Holmes not in play here again, and Jones out, Tristan Thompson questionable, Alex Len may be the last man standing in this front court. He's played 28, 23, and 24 minutes the last 3 games, and he has 2 games over 30 fantasy points. At only 4K, I think it's very easy to take a chance on him. Me Too might play a lot of center behind him, especially if Tristan Thompson is out. So I don't mind taking a shot at him at 4-1. I prefer Len. And then you're looking at a Buddy Hield. I really like Buddy in this matchup, 5,600, against a team that was rumored to trade for him. The Lakers bleed points to this and give up a lot of threes in transition. He's averaging 34 fantasy points against the Lakers in 3 games, and he's only shooting 37% against the Lakers. I think he could shoot a little bit better. He's shooting 34% from 3 against the Lakers, which he's shooting better on the season as a whole, a lot better there. So I do prefer Buddy Hield in this matchup. I think he can have a big game here. I do like Halliburton over Fox, but those two guys are kind of canceling each other out. I still think 7K for Halliburton is a very reasonable price. He's have at least 37 fantasy points in 3 of the last 4, and those were with Fox. So I think he can still look there, but the upside is just capped with Fox there. So I'm looking mainly at Buddy Hield, Alex Len, a little bit of Me Too, and Halliburton taking some chances on there. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in. That does it for all of our 9-game slate. Before we head on out of here, I will throw out my favorite tier players of the night. We will start with the expensive tier, and I'm going to go on a little bit of the cheaper side on the expensive tier, and I'm going to go with Dejounte Murray against Houston, with possibly a lot of people out again, with or without those guys out. Murray should feast against the Rockets here. I'm expecting a very, very solid game, about 20 points. I expect close to double-digit assists, if more. And we know he can rebound, so I'm expecting positive. I think he could possibly put up a triple-double in this matchup. We will see, but I really like Murray to beat his value here by a good margin. And he's cheaper on the expensive side of the ball. If you want to go super expensive, I mentioned Embiid's going to be in a fantastic matchup, but we won't go to the tippity top of the iceberg in the expensive tier for tonight. All right, jumping on over to favorite mid-tier play of the night. I think there's quite a few of them here. Actually, let me switch that. Let's go straight to the value play. And I think I mentioned it earlier. He would be my favorite value play. I think there's a few centers that are in contention for favorite value play, but I'm going to go with Okongwu at under 4K. He's going to draw the start with a doubtful tag there on Clint Capella, and I expect a double-double. I expect a much better performance than he did the previous game when he started, and he's going to crush value here. I really like Okongwu. And my favorite value play of the night, I'm going to go again on the cheaper side, 5,400 Tyrese Maxey. Fantastic matchup against Charlotte. We might not have Harris. We might not have Curry. Maxey's going to be easily the number 2 option, running a lot of the offense. I really like that. If those two guys play, does put a little dent in his upside, but I still think he's going to bring back a ton of value in this matchup. All right, now that does it for the show. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you again tomorrow. Peace.